Hi, friends. I think we are streaming. I think we're streaming. Just wanted you to know that we are just going to talk a little bit before this press conference starts so you can kind of get a feeling of what's going on. And basically, if you've been paying attention to the news, that is why you are here. Anti-abortion extremists have been invading clinics for years. It has escalated very profoundly in the past few years. Many organizations are involved. It's a network. And these people have been going into the waiting rooms and lobbies of clinics, chaining themselves to chairs, not leaving, and harassing and terrorizing the patients and the people who run the clinics. They were finally busted after doing it in DC, after many of them have done many rescues. And in one of the bustings, they found fetuses in the home of a person named Lauren Handy, who has been a professional invader. The reason we want to watch this press conference is to see how they try to justify. And we're going to go live to their live stream in a minute when the press conference starts. And I'm going to try to fact check in real time. All the things that I hear them say, if I don't get to fact check them, we're going to go over to TikTok about an hour after and really let you know where they are telling lies and what is really happening. So I think we're going to take this live stream now live. Max, are you saying you want to share your screen now because they're talking?
Yes,
Okay,
it's
great.
sideways, so they seem to be having some tech trouble, but we can talk about
All
that.
right, so we're going to go live and watch, and then when they start talking, I'm going to try to not interrupt them and go in real time. I think it's very important to put sunlight on this and stay our moral high ground with them. So far, the press conference is going sideways. So we're off to a great start here. So next, why don't we go ahead and put up the graphic, and then we can go live when they go live and fix their camera.
Respect that. My name is Randall Terry. I'm the founder of Operation Rescue. My name is spelled RANDALLTERRY. This is
Terry has been arrested for terrorizing clinics before.
She is the founder and the director of PAAU. That is PAAU, Progressive Anti-Abortion Uprising. And our relationship has been endearing. It has been courageous. And I have to tell you that she is one of the most courageous people I have ever met in my life. And I am honored to stand beside her. And for her,
Randall Terry, who has terrorized clinics since the 80s, as the person introducing this whole event.
Hello, my name is Teresa Bukovinak. I am an atheist, I'm a leftist, and I'm the founder and executive director of PAAU, the Progressive Anti-Abortion Uprising. On Friday, March 25th, the day of the unborn child, Lauren Handy and I went to Washington Surgery Center to engage in anti-abortion advocacy. Upon arrival, we saw a truck labeled Curtis Bay Medical Waste Services parked outside. We approached the driver, who was about to load 2 large boxes with biohazard symbols onto his truck. We asked him if he knew what was in the boxes, and after he said no, we told him, dead babies. The driver was visibly shaken. After he confirmed the boxes were from Washington Surgery, I asked him, would you get in trouble if we took one of these boxes?
The boxes.
I asked, what would you do with them if you took one? Lauren said, we will give them a proper burial and a funeral. The driver thought for a second and said, okay, and gestured towards the box. Lauren immediately grabbed the box off of the dolly
Lied to the driver.
and brought it back to her
Said
apartment.
it was dead babies.
In the presence of a Catholic deacon, Lauren cut open
Oh
the
my
box
God.
with a red plastic bag inside. We then proceeded to unpack the remains of 110, mostly first trimester aborted children. At the bottom of the box was a clear plastic bag with 5 more containers, one much bigger than the remaining 4. Lauren reached into the largest bucket and removed the remains of a beautiful, intact, and nearly full-term baby boy who we named Christopher X. I think I can speak for both Lauren and I when I say this was the most devastating and soul-crushing experience of our lives. Not even
All
years
of this is
of
just them
anti-abortion
admitting
advocacy
that they
have
stole
prepared
fetal
us for
remains
that
from a
moment.
clinic.
And it's a moment that
And
will live
to
on
post
for
what
us
those fetal
for all
remains
of
were
time.
to the driver.
Opened the larger containers and discovered 4 more babies with a range of injuries, including fully intact girl we named Harriet, who had one eye open, an incision in the back of her neck, her brain suctioned out, and her skull crushed. 2 other late-term babies named Angel and Holly were severely dismembered, and the final baby, Phoenix, was whole.
They named them,
inside
be
the
clear.
amniotic sac.
They are the ones naming the fetal
A fetus
remains
had
of
generally
someone
used during
else.
abortion procedures after 20 weeks gestation to cause an unborn baby a heart attack, which helps prevent a live birth and the excruciating pain of
These
total.
people are not doctors, and they
But
were
in
not there for
live
any
action
of the
captured
procedures.
undercover footage
So we have
of
no
abortion
reason to trust them on
Angelo, the
anything they
sole
are saying.
abortionist on
They
staff
opened
for
up with,
decades at
we
Washington
stole
Surgery, admitting
these
that he does not use
fetal
fetuses.
remains from the driver who had no right
And
to
the
pass
advanced
them off
gestational
to
ages of these
anyone
babies
other
and their
than the
inherent
place
condition,
that
the
takes them
likelihood that some were
to
born alive is
the
undeniable.
dignified place where medical waste
The
goes.
injuries sustained by Harriet strongly imply she was the victim of a partial birth abortion.
Strongly implied,
After spending nearly 3
is
days searching for a private pathologist to
not
confirm
in
the
any way,
violation
shape, or
of federal
form
law,
a
a
fact,
funeral
and
mass was
all it
held
does
at Lauren's
is try
apartment,
to
where all 115 babies were
humanize
named.
people's
Shortly after, the 110 smaller children were
abortions.
taken to an undisclosed location for burial. They have since been buried. On March 29th, Lauren and I
They
coordinated
buried
with the
someone
police
else's
DC homicide unit of the
fetal
location of the
remains. Let's
5
be
larger
clear,
babies
they
and requested
decided to
an
steal some
investigation into
from a
their
medical
death.
facility and
Arrangements
bury
were
someone else's remains.
picked up that evening, but police didn't arrive until the afternoon of the 30th, just hours after Lauren was taken into custody by the FBI in connection with a rescue 2 years prior. Today I stand in solidarity with Lauren and the 8 other defendants who are facing harsh incarceration penalties under the FACE Act for simply protecting the victims of violent oppression at Santangelo's clinic. And while these heroes are being unjustly prosecuted,
and torturing
Santangelo
and
continues to
harassing
kill babies
people
and
while they go to
exploit
the
their parents
doctor
for profit,
is
as
an
he has
offense.
done for decades. This must end. We are demanding
Right,
that the
this
DC
must
police
end.
conduct
Their
a
behavior
full
must end, and they
investigation
must
into the
pay.
deaths of these babies, including thorough autopsies. We demand that the U.S. Department of Justice prosecute Santangelo for violations of the Born Alive Infant Protection Act and the Partial Birth Abortion Act. And we're demanding it now. And in an effort to keep our promise to the Curtis Bay whistleblower, we demand a proper burial for the remaining 5 children post-autopsy. Pro-life Americans will not stay
Let's be
silent
clear,
in
the
the face
Curtis
of
Bay
such
whistleblower
aggressive and
is
barbarous
the person
violence. And we
transporting
will diligently work until the
the
American abortion industrial complex
product of conception.
fully disarmed
No
and
one's
dismantled.
whistleblowing anything. Somebody who was a driver took them.
Next is Lauren Handy. Lauren is the Director of Activism for PAAU.
Reminder, Lauren Handy bragged about trying to
Well,
dive into
my name is
dumpsters
Lauren
at
Handy.
clinics.
I'm a devout
And also
Catholic.
a reminder that clinics do not dispose their
Policy
medical waste in
and
dumpsters. They do
European
it
culture of
legitimately
life.
through
I'm also
proper
the director of activism for the Progressive Anti-Abortion Uprising and one of the 9 defendants indicted by the FBI on FACE charges. I made a promise, a funeral and a burial. It has been my desire since the beginning, since March 25th, and through the whole process to ensure these children's dignity were uplifted and respected. During the 5 days they were under my stewardship, the 115 victims of abortion violence were given a funeral mass for
5
unbaptized
days under her
and the
stewardship.
110 have been given a proper burial in a private cemetery by a priest. But what about the 5? Phoenix, Harriet, Christopher X, Angel, and Holly, the children who have been featured in the news so far, were so
5
advanced
days,
in their
she said she
gestational
had these
age, and the
fetuses.
patterns of their wounds suggest violent federal crimes. We
But
arranged
we
for the
have Googled
medical
the
examiner
manifest that said
children.
the fetuses
Washington Surgery is part of
were
a network
delivered
of 21 abortion
and
centers in the
this truck driver
DMV
on
area.
March
The
2nd.
abortion industry,
So
which
where
is
have
the
they been
overlapping
since
interests of
March
state
2nd
and business,
till the
use
5 days before
isolation and violence to make off
the
huge
FBI seized
profits
them?
of people who
That
are
is a
pregnant
question I would like
families,
answered.
and in particular, low-income women facing crisis and unwanted pregnancies. Uplifting and showing the 5 children does not pit us against their parents. I am deeply heartbroken for these families. Their exploitation from Washington Surgery, and then their children being used for profit by Curtis Bay
It is
shows how deeply
unbelievable that
flawed
she would
our communities
accuse
are.
anyone else of exploitation when she has taken somebody else's
Next, one of
abortion
the
and
9 defendants who were
put them
arrested
on
by
display
the
and
FBI
handed them out to other organizations to
Joan
make
and
videos.
Isabel.
It is an
Joan and I have
outrage.
been good
These people
friends
are ghoulish.
and have done, I don't even know how many innumerable pro-life events together, being arrested together. She is currently the founder and director of Gloria Dei
Randall
Apostolic,
Terry has been several times arrested, has
nationally
known
known
associates
as a living
with
legend
people
and
who
hero.
have murdered abortion doctors. Let's be clear. His organization's leadership after him, Troy Newman, was banned from going
And all my dear pro-life friends
to Australia.
for every single day doing what they can to the best of their ability by the grace of God to defend little babies, to love their moms and dads, and to love the abortionists and pray for their conversion. I got involved in direct action when I was 12, 13 years old in the civil rights movement. And this action that I do now and have done for the last nearly 50 years is in line with that. To try to stand up for truth, to honor God, and to love my country and my fellow Americans by hoping that we will convert, become a people of love and charity, and defend the defenseless and the just. And I just want to mention,
Please
Herbert,
do not
after World War II,
think this is a kind old woman who has been in the civil rights
we-
movement.
judges were
Joan
trying
Bell
to
has been
humanity and
part of
crimes
an
against humanity.
incredible ring of anti-abortion extremists,
Scolded
one being
the doctor
Army of God, who were
against The
he
Jews
employed and was friends with
was illegal in Germany. In
the
fact, the
person
company
who killed Dr. Slepian in his kitchen.
against the government.
Army of God created a manifesto that literally said, and people signed onto, that it is justifiable homicide to kill doctors.
But
It is so outrageous
international court told
that
those
Randall
criminals,
Terry, Joan
you
Bell,
cannot
and these
legalize
people
murder.
are holding a press
Just from
conference
America today.
to
America
normalize
do not legalize
what
the
has
murder
happened.
of innocent and
We
unjust.
cannot let this stand.
Jonathan Darnell is here with us, a courageous man who is also one of the 9 people who were arrested by the FBI, and he is the director of GetSeriousChurch.com.
Hi, like I said, my name is Jonathan Darnell. Unlike some of my friends, I'm not myself a progressive, but I am vehemently anti-abortion, and I made this website, GetSeriousChurch.com, to convince Christians to fight abortion more effectively. All right? Now, when you do that, bad stuff can happen to you sometimes. 2 years ago, I was filming a peaceful pro-life activity at the Washington Surgery Center. All right, and then we didn't hear anything for 2 years. And then last Wednesday morning at the crack of dawn, an FBI SWAT team busted down our door, handcuffed myself and all my housemates.
The reason we are doing this living and fact checking in real time is they cannot act as though it is peaceful to invade a clinic and to impose themselves onto people who are having abortions. There is nothing more horrifying than to challenge someone's decision against their will, call it guidance, therapy, help. These people show up uninvited and try to normalize invading clinics and stealing fetuses. Let's be clear. They are having a press conference to normalize stealing medical remains of products of conception, making videos about it,
Finally, we
and
have Missy
invading
Smith.
clinics.
Missy is the director of Wake
All
Up.
of these people
She was
have been
my
connected to
presidential candidate a few years back when we ran against Obama as Democrat
horrifying
ads on television of
anti-abortion extremists, people who have tortured clinics, people who torture patients, people who have
in the district.
affiliates
You might have
who
been around at
are
that time. Those ads, it was quite a firestorm.
horrifyingly violent, and many who were even at the insurrection.
Television saying if you vote for so and so, you are voting for this. Missy is a dear friend and colleague and one of the most articulate and courageous women I know. Missy Smith.
Thank you, Randall.
We also cannot let them redefine courageous. There is nothing courageous about harming, trying to harm, advocating harm of abortion providers,
Remember that
of
name, doctors and
people who are accessing abortion, and
yeah,
to putting their judgment in question.
the 9 pro-lifers were arrested.
It is
St. Angela's office
unbelievable to say you're pro-life
was to expose
when
them.
you are dedicating your life to harming
In November
doctors
2000,
and
I
removing
personally
life-saving
treated
care
full-term
to
baby
people that need it.
Dr. St. Angelo had induced an abortion. She was
And
found
let me be clear,
toilet of a Maryland restaurant. I named
nothing
her
here
Golden Grace, and we gave
is,
her a proper Catholic burial.
whatever they're saying is supposition.
Babies found at St.
Let's
Angela's
remember,
abortion mill
they
included
got this,
110
these
first
fetal remains
trimester babies, as well
from a
as 5
guy who was
third trimester
simply
babies
hired
killed
by
St.
the
Angelo.
company that
The
transports
corpses of these 5 babies
all
appeared
kinds
to
of products of
indicate a
conception
violation of
and
federal
medical
law.
waste to a facility to be
Dr. St. Angelo
properly
needs to be
disposed
investigated
of.
immediately.
That's how
by
they
the U.S.
acquired
Department of
these.
Justice,
No
who is
one
tasked
gave them
with
to them.
enforcing
There was no
federal law.
nefarious actions on the clinic. These people are
Furthermore,
holding
we
a press
believe
conference to
the
say,
Metro Police
we
are
acquired
actually
these,
involved in a
we
cover-up.
are shameless, we will
Angelo's
stop at
crime.
nothing.
The bio-waste company from
Steal
which we intercepted
bio waste.
these children's bodies is Curtis Bay Energy. Remember
Curtis
that
Bay
name,
Energy's
Curtis Bay
driver
Energy. Curtis
gave
Bay
them.
Energy states on their website that they burn biomedical waste to sustain.
Curtis Bay Energy has a list of clients from all kinds of medical facilities.
This
We are
means
happy to
gradually
provide for you
they
the
receive,
manifest
transfer,
from
and
them
burn
because we found it.
of
I am
aborted
happy
babies
to
to
post
make
that online.
electricity for the
This
household
is an
of
unmitigated
the Baltimore area.
and
If
ghoulish
you live
spin
in the Baltimore area, you
on
must know that aborted
people
babies
who
have been
live
burned.
their lives
Keep your lights on.
to harm other people and to spin the truth
We call on
for their
Curtis Bay Energy to end
twisted
its
obsession
barbaric
with
practice
making sure that
and to
patriarchy remains
confirm
in place.
publicly that they
All
have
the
done
people you
so.
see on the screen right now, and I don't know this woman speaking, but Randall Terry,
We're going to show.
Joan Bell, Lauren Handy
We're going to show.
are all associates of
There's two reasons for this. One is
Operation Save America,
age of
whose leader was at the insurrection and who holds
and show that Curtis Bay
prayer
was
services and church
They-
gatherings, telling people to take up arms to preserve the Christian way of life.
So when this is done, I will
Uh,
have one moment and then we
Randall
will take
Terry
on the
has
floor.
been jailed for harming people.
We also want to give a disclaimer
And
that
the irony that that woman was president of something called Wake Up. We all need
reality of what
to watch this
abortion.
right now. These are videos they're going to show of stolen fetuses, and then they're going to suppose an entire narrative onto these fetuses, a narrative that they made up that is not based in fact, not based in anything.
Have experienced pregnancy loss.
It is unbelievable how much they want to project onto this. I am going to say, if you would like to watch this video, it is horrific, and be forewarned. Look, here's them. Here's the medical waste they stole. Here's the medical waste they stole. And if you literally think that this is legitimate to have a person say, aborted babies have been burned to keep your lights on and your house warm, that is utter lunacy. It's utter lunacy. These are the same people who say, oh, we must have laws that bury and cremate abortions, but we can't sterilize products of conception in a way like we would any other medical procedure. You're going to call that something else?
So when they open the box.
I'm sorry, this is
For the first time.
This is so ghoulish. This is what they live for, to literally open up a bag that has been correctly sterilized and sealed and given to a biohazard management company to dispose of it properly. Reminder, the only people here breaking the law and being ghoulish are the people who stole this. Full stop. Full stop. And I want to be very clear also as we talk about what's happening here, and as we talk about one of the reasons they're doing this, I firmly believe that by showing you fetuses that they do not know where they came from, some were abortions, some may be stillborn, some may be later abortions, they were all done, and all of the things that they have gotten were procedures that were legally done, safely done, and then they went through all the protocols that any other medical facility does to make sure that everything is done by the book. They're trying to do something and goad us into saying like, where are the mothers? What are these babies? We must resist placing personhood onto anyone other than the person having the abortion. This is an affront to anyone who's had an abortion, to go to a facility and take what happened Here they are in their home with someone else's products of conception. What they are showing you, we don't know. We do know that who is in this video handling these products of conception? Why are we not asking that question? And if this is how they need to further and justify without any conversation around the circumstances around why somebody may have terminated a pregnancy, it's disgusting. It is disgusting. For them to open and film all of this is, please, let us all challenge and not allow this narrative that they have be real. It's why we're doing this. If this video would have been allowed to just be shown, and if this press conference would have just allowed to exist, then all kinds of pile-on from their side would have happened. Without a counter narrative, this is simply putting us on the defensive. This is unbelievable that they would actually show this without any context for their own disgusting gains of harming people who need abortions, positioning people who need abortions into places where they have no access and could possibly end up having unsafe abortions, and to look at people who are in a cohort with known Christian extremists, known violent actors, known clinic bomb. Randall Terry has been associated with people who have
because we're both Catholic.
killed doctors.
Be more renegade Catholics, and we.
It is a shock tactic to distract from their crime and their abuse of clinic workers.
On a level that I have rarely
Anything they say here
impressed
is
easily.
delegitimized by their relentless pursuit and
to the
torture
to the
and
priests
unmitigated
Remember
hideousness
the Samaritan.
around what they do. Operation Rescue, Operation Save America,
Pillars of the community.
they flyer doctors' neighborhoods saying that a child murderer lives in your neighborhood and gives their name and gives their address.
Hero of the story.
They are living in a constant state and culture of
Leaders of his day who thought
horrifying
and high and holy and mighty. And so
violence,
I endorse what these leaders are doing.
manipulating
Largely
the narrative,
not only are they saving
thinking that
babies'
we're
lives,
going to just let them do it and be on the defensive and wonder what we're going to do.
abuse
It's not okay
and the treachery
to
and
let
the
this stand.
of the Christian community at large.
To
and
stand with
in
Randall
particular,
Terry
the priests and the Levites
as your
of our day.
spokesperson,
They are living, breathing,
man
walking,
who was jailed
cowardly
for
Christian.
invading clinics and harming doctors
Finally,
and terrorizing patients.
picture it's 1850,
He is
Charleston,
speaking for them.
and there's two reporters in this beautiful fair. And one of them is a reporter for a newspaper in Atlanta, and one of them is a reporter for a newspaper in Boston. And the Atlanta newspaper journalist writes about the weather and the beautiful new parasols that just arrived from France, and how the cider was so good this year. And
I
the
wonder
flowers-
why there's not a lot of journalists at your press conference,
all
Randall Terry.
accurate depiction. And then the Boston writer discusses the 3 boats full of slaves that had just arrived, and the weeping,
This is a
and how
shocking
horrible the
farce.
condition was, and
A
watching
shocking
some
farce
beautiful females
that
be sold
people
and
who
discussing that they were undoubtedly going to be sold not only to save slavery,
Steal
but sex slavery,
from a clinic
which was
and then
also
present this
accurate.
foolish, macabre display to try to
So,
scare all of
you
us.
journalists and your
And
editors
it's
in particular
unbelievable, the audacity of an all-white group of people
have a
invoking
choice to
slavery.
be the Atlanta journalist or the Boston journalist.
What is he even talking about?
Woe to you.
And why is he
Remember,
even
if it was
talking?
1942 or 1943 and a German
Does
photographer
anybody on the planet feel like
waited
Randall
in
Terry
Search
should
Powell
be their
and took
spokesperson?
footage of what was happening in those facilities and did not show it, that photojournalist would be a collaborator with the Nazis and with the killers. And that
Oh, now he's saying that photojournalists who do not cover their stolen, manipulated narratives
it is
are
Republicanism.
akin to being
Treachery against these
Nazi collaborators.
So now, we will
That is
take
what he
questions.
just
Please
said.
line
Randall
and direct the question to any individual, and we will begin with you, and then we'll go to you, sir. Go ahead.
Hi, I have two questions. Thank you for being here, both of you ladies. Could you first speak to the legal action that's been taken against Lauren? I know you mentioned incarceration. Could you just briefly re-explain what action has been taken against her?
The action that people are referring to is the FBI indictment for the FACE charge. I have not been contacted by Metropolitan Police about the children, and the FBI were never in my home as well.
Thank you. And also, as the progressive anti-abortion uprising, I'd like to know if any progressive lawmakers have reacted or responded to these uncoverings, and any lawmakers in general. I haven't seen much on my end.
I haven't seen it either.
Shamefully, no.
Oh, no lawmakers, not a single one, have come to their defense. I wonder why. I love that they say, because you call yourself progressive, are progressives on board?
Make that happen, but because the days were going by and we were unable to find a pathologist or some kind of specialist that could verify the gestational ages of these children and the cause of death, that's when we made the determination to turn them over to the homicide unit.
DC Police, as a follow-up, DC Police has said the fetuses were aborted according to DC law.
If I
What
can
is your
run
reaction to
this.
that?
We did not want these babies to go to the DC police. They should have gone to the federal government. They should have gone to the DOJ or to the FBI.
Oh, averting the question, they said they were
For a
aborted
reason of
legally.
in DC.
What's your response?
Now,
We
to see
didn't
here,
want them to go there.
So the police are betraying the babies.
Also,
and in some
They also
ways,
admitted they didn't know the gestational age. They knew nothing. So they're just presupposing everything.
But
They have a box of stolen medical waste and they are putting on a show.
And
It's
they
the worst summer stock theater ever.
determining if these babies were the victims of crimes. It's really a
This is
simple
why
question.
they have to use these scare tactics. They have no facts on their side.
Evidence that air was breathed in. Gosnell, many of you are familiar with the abortionist in Philadelphia. He's in
This
prison.
is
for
not
breast-
Gosnell. Do not allow them to compare this to Gosnell. I am going to talk over him because Gosnell was a horrible monster who performed illegal abortions, and no one was defending Gosnell. No one.
He persecutes the innocent.
He is not a doctor.
Do you believe that
He
you have
is
the Biden
a
DOJ
felon
in Santangelo?
who's been incarcerated for harassing people.
I believe in people power. I believe in people power, and I believe in the hope that justice will prevail.
And to that same end, are you concerned at all that they are going to charge you in relation to this action?
I mean, it's a possibility. We don't know what's going to happen, but we're not afraid.
Every action has consequences, and we weigh our actions, and we know that.
Also discussing that I have a say their names poster of fetuses, and they gave fetuses names, and they would co-opt say their names of people who were executed in the hands of police and compare it and steal it for their own thing. It is unbelievable to me.
You just talked about
Unbelievable.
how important this day is and what is going on right now.
I think whenever the victims are brought into focus and are spoken of.
Reminder, this woman employed and was friends with
Great thing.
the murderer of Dr. Slepian and was part of Army of God, one of the most violent, advocated for violence, anti-abortion organizations
Love God.
that has ever existed.
know
She is
God,
not an old lady peacenik. She has been in a violent extremist movement for 50 years.
What's been going on
50
in our-
years.
This is the 50th year of legalized child murder. So we have to wait and see.
Thank you, Jonathan and Randall, for your comments about Christians and their inaction. Could I get you to comment, what is your message to progressives?
There is no progress without the unborn. We cannot build a better world on a pile of murdered children. That's not progress. Real progress.
No one's trying to build a better world on a pile of murdered children.
From people like Santangelo.
And this is how they try to frame it.
True progressives
Let's
must
be
stand
clear.
up against
Abortion
injustice
is the alternative to pregnancy.
in the power of people.
And that is why people have abortions, to end pregnancies.
The industrial complex.
Anytime they invoke any humanity,
Enough people stand up to them.
absolutely hypocritical. She calls herself a progressive, but works with anti-abortion people and organizations directly,
Could you clarify again when you mentioned about?
directly works with them. Organizations that uphold white supremacy,
Because I know there was the letter
destroy
from
values,
your lawyer. so
and
wanted to-
dare I say, are even denying what's happening, the atrocities happening in Ukraine. If you are in league with any organization
Him giving you the box?
We don't have video.
that is supporting
photographs,
white supremacy, the insurrection, the torture of abortion providers, the destroying our environment, you are not progressive. You don't just get to say you're progressive. It's one of those things where let your actions tell people. And so far,
the children on the night of the 29th
she is proving that she has zero values, especially the value of human life.
Staying at my apartment this entire time. We were not staying in the apartment, eating in the apartment. And we decided we were tired. We were just going to go back in the morning. In the morning, we started receiving calls and word that the FBI was making arrests in this unrelated but connected through Santangelo case. And so we hurried over to her apartment to check and see if the police had taken the babies. When we arrived, we stepped out of the Uber. FBI stepped out of their cars. They arrested Lauren on the sidewalk. I took a video of that interaction, and then she was taken into custody. The FBI never entered her home. They asked me to take her things into her apartment, which I did, and when I went in, I realized that the babies were still there. I then contacted the lawyers, and they made arrangements I allowed the DC police I gave them permission to enter the home just a few
So
hours.
she gave the police permission to confiscate the stolen fetal remains that were in the apartment.
Babies in their apartment for
That's
a total of 5 days. The 110 smaller children were taken away earlier than that and have been properly buried by a Catholic priest. It is beyond disingenuous, it's offensive that anyone would call into question their manners or their integrity for having these babies in a refrigerator when they took such care to treat them with honor and dignity and sought nothing but
okay, this is the best statement. It is offensive that we would say that they have kept them in a dignified manner in their freezer behind the frozen corn and some old meat. Are you shitting me? Are you shitting me?
to make
Who
electricity for their,
finds it?
that's what's offensive. Yes, ma'am.
Oh, really? Oh my God. Oh my God. That is unbelievable.
That burial, I know you mentioned it when you spoke. Who coordinated that on your team? Did you also contact the DC police for that burial?
So according to these people, it is noble to steal fetuses and keep them in your fridge and not in any way offensive or horrific. Got it. Got it.
With the names as shown in
Are they buried in the district?
Once again, more information will come forward soon. We're arranging a tombstone with the names etched on the tombstone. Thank you.
And is the
They're
priest?
arranging the names on a tombstone.
And more information will come soon. We want to get a tombstone with the names etched on the tombstone. Thank
It was
you.
one of the reasons we waited till today to do the press conference is there's so many moving parts and there's so many details. And it would be unfair to the press.
So many moving parts, Randall Terry. You mean,
Answer
I'm not
the
even gonna go there. You are a monster.
When you conducted that burial?
Yeah, they had to wait till today so they could get their story straight and try
The
to
video
figure out a
shows,
way to spin.
Has the box opening up, and then afterwards you see the containers. Was there more video shot, and if so, will that be released?
There was an exorbitant amount of footage sought, and go ahead and answer, because you're gonna put it up on your website.
Yes,
aren't you?
before we opened the box, we set up a camera in the room that took, real-time footage of the entire event. These close-up shots that you see were taken from my phone, which are just a little bit more visible for you guys to understand what was going on. The other camera is from a distance.
I have a statement, if I can, from Curtis Bay Energy, if I can get some comment from it. And I quote, "On March 25th, a Curtis Bay employee took custody of 3 packages from the Washington Surgery Center at Washington Surgery Clinic and delivered all of them to Curtis Bay's incineration facility. At no time did the Curtis Bay employee hand over any of these packages to the PAAU or other third party, and any allegations made otherwise are false." One more paragraph. "As stated in client agreements and company policy, customers like Washington Surgery Clinic are prohibited from disposing of fetuses and human remains via Curtis Bay services. Curtis Bay provides its clients with medical waste bags and boxes to use in a manner that complies with applicable law, client agreements, and company policy. Curtis Bay continues to fully cooperate with law enforcement." Could you please comment?
When we spoke with the driver, he did say that he had already scanned the boxes in, and that was right before he asked, what would you do with them? So I am not sure if Curtis Bay is lying or if he simply already scanned them in and so therefore they're accounting for them. From our observation, there was only 2 boxes, but it's possible that he had loaded one onto the truck before we arrived. What was the last part of that?
It's possible that they don't know that the abortion is.
Right, and
The
it's definitely
scan
possible
on
that
the
we
box
don't know what is
that goes
inside
to the
box.
manifest is dated March 2nd.
Violation of his contract.
So I don't know what March 25th is. This is very mysterious
But
to
one
me.
of them is in the wrong, one of them needs to be held accountable, or both of them.
I find it hard to believe that the company that takes medical waste from abortion clinics would never put 2 and 2 together.
Yes, it's interesting. They have no video of them asking
What else?
for
would they
the
have?
boxes.
Let's see, let's go with you, ma'am, and then you, sir, go ahead.
My tangent to that is, how did you know what was in the box before asking for it?
So Teresa and Lauren picked up the box not knowing what was in it. They called me and I said, we don't know what's in it. Go get gloves, go get masks, be very careful, you literally don't know what's inside. Set up a camera and then film.
So when you have a box of medical waste, you don't call the police, you don't call anybody, you call Randall Terry. That's who you call first. And I guess maybe Lila Rose second. And then you call the police to come haul them out after you'd made all your videos so that maybe you just didn't want them in your freezer anymore. This is all so sus.
Can you describe any conversations you've had with mainstream pro-life groups in the past several days, perhaps ones that they don't want to say on the record, but them having discussions with you, maybe advising you or providing kind of comments and support, even if they don't want to speak on the record publicly?
What is the question?
Say it again, you're saying what pro-life leaders and pro-life groups have we spoken to?
Yeah, and especially if they don't want to speak on the record, can you convey, why they have told you they don't want to speak on the record about this?
I have no comment.
No comment.
They have to speak.
No
to answer.
comment. No one's calling us because we are literally as toxic as biohazard waste that has not been treated.
How you put that you weren't sure what was in the box when you unboxed them, but before that, wouldn't you have had to tell the Curtis Bay employees that you said that they were fetuses in these boxes? So did you tell them that without being sure?
It was the logical assumption that they were going on when they spoke to the driver. This is coming from the abortion mill. It's a huge, heavy box full of medical waste.
What a
So-
movement you have when Randall Terry is your spokesperson and now your story's getting muddied. So
Well, you can
he
just-
being a professional fetus stealer was like, it's logical.
I wanted to convey to him, that there was a probability that there were dead babies in there.
Next question.
It's
Go ahead, ma'am.
insanity that they say they were fetuses, but we didn't know. We were surprised, but it's a logical assumption. So let's call Randall Terry for the answer.
Can you tell us, are you working closely with them? Who else did you share the videos with? And your lawyer is from Center for Medical Progress. Are you part of those organizations? Can you share a little bit about your relationships with those groups?
They're not directly involved. I had shared some information that they did release. We did not authorize that, but, you know, it's.
We shared information they released, but we didn't authorize it.
Especially for.
Oh,
those
I'm
of us-
sure you said off the record, we stole some fetuses. Will you please write about it? Give me a break.
PAAU believes and promotes unity through diversity. And it is important now for the justice for the five that we come together in unity to ensure that the five get the proper justice, proper burial, and autopsy. We believe in, once again, unity through
So
diversity.
basically what they've done is stolen fetuses acquired from an abortion facility,
Talk a little bit
that
about.
from abortions that were done legally, that were disposed of legally. And they're holding a press conference because they want to
And also
have a
what you're,
proper burial for them.
are you contact?
Like this,
Okay,
like a moving box.
okay, and it was just one box, okay.
We haven't had any interactions with the police other than allowing them to enter the property, pick up the babies, and that's it.
Okay.
And yet there was a police,
Where are the five
press-
now?
at a press conference, police said,
We know they're in the custody of the police.
The DC medical examiner.
The DC
Our
police or
concern
the
is
DC
that
police
they
or
will-
FBI?
Our concern is that they will treat these babies improperly. These children must.
Randall Terry's concerned that the babies will be treated improperly, not properly, like throwing them in a freezer and passing them out to your anti-abortion pals to make videos. That's proper treatment? Oh my God, this is gaslighting.
Did you?
Hey, so in reaching out to the DC medical examiner, I've been told that Mayor Bowser is handling all communications on this front. Have you guys heard from Bowser at all?
No.
No.
Do you have any idea whether she'll allow autopsies to be performed?
We don't know.
You're watching in real time a crime against children and a cover-up in broad daylight. Give the
Oh my God, what are you talking about?
baby-
A crime in real time is you. There's no cover up. You just don't like the outcome of the fact that
Live outside of the womb before they.
no one is in any way, shape or form co-signing on your fucking macabre scavenger hunt and unboxing
Stories come out over the
videos.
last from left-wing crazy
Not-
rats that they would be funny. It would be like The Onion was writing them, except that they're so grotesque. So, if nothing else, at least
I'd like to know what we've written, what I've written, what I've said that is incorrect.
How old were they? Why isn't the Fed going after these people at the same time?
Can you imagine having zero people
And then suddenly,
allowing
DOJ
Randall
comes
Terry to
in
spew
and
this
tries to arrest
insanity and to allow them to completely dehumanize physicians and people who need abortions and to try to spin this behavior as acceptable. I absolutely cannot and do not understand
cases.
how
So
there is
somebody
not
went
a ton of our media there
Department of Justice
to
and
hold
dug
them
up
down.
a case that was 2 years old, and probably
Dug
the
up a case that's 2 years old? No, they were collecting evidence
indictment, but then suddenly when
to
these
get
babies-
face violations pressed
these
on
babies
9 of
began
you.
Police coordinated. That's my gut, but I could be wrong. So,
question. As you point out, DC has very few restrictions on abortions. How can you be certain that these fetuses were not terminated based on medical need and or to save the woman's life? How can you be certain that wasn't the case?
Well, an autopsy would help reveal that. We know from the small amount of statistics that we do have on the topic that the majority of even late-term, third trimester abortions are done for elective reasons. But the reality is we don't know, which is exactly why we
The small amount of research we have
And the
tells
DC medical
us
exam has said
a
that they-
conclusion that's inaccurate.
They don't see any reason to move forward. Therefore, at this point, the fetuses are in the hands of the medical experts who say that they have no reason to move forward, that it's under law.
They said that a day later. It's very hard for me to imagine that they were able to conduct thorough autopsies on 5 unborn children or possibly born.
The non-doctor is really
Concerned about the possibility of
telling us how medical examinations work. I've watched Law and Order and I know that they can do things pretty quickly.
live through lawful means.
I am strategically, politically, and religiously against all forms of aggressive violence. I have always been
Unless I am perpetrating it myself.
strategically against all forms of aggressive violence.
Legally, if there's a conflict between the DC and the FBI and the national, how is that settled? Who gets priority on? It's a little bit confusing.
As you know, there are a lot of good people in law enforcement, and there are some that aren't good, and then what you deal with is the management. So the Biden management of the DOJ does not hold out much promise that the FBI would do a proper investigation into these babies, but they are the ones who should be tasked with it. So the DC police picked up the babies. That's who the lawyer contacted. I believe personally that was a strategic mistake. The baby
Should have gone directly to FBI.
Yes, the baby should have been turned over to the FBI.
Okay.
Can you elaborate, what did you mean about the Biden DOJ just now?
What did I mean?
Did
Well,
you
the
say,
president.
do you mean about this case in specifically, or are you talking about some other cases?
Well, this case specifically.
I see, so in that they haven't responded yet, or what do you mean when you said the DOJ wasn't giving you confidence?
What do you mean when you say the DOJ isn't giving you confidence?
Oh, because they're arresting people who did a sit-in at this abortion facility, and the guy who's running the abortion facility is walking free.
Yes, they arrested people who invaded a clinic and terrorized the patients and the staff there and wouldn't leave. This isn't an office building or a college campus. It's a place where people go get medical care.
Of violence, we must act non-violently. We cannot mirror the injustice. We want to build a culture where instead of hurt people, but heal people, heal people.
Let me be clear
Justice
that when you impose your religious beliefs and sometimes you threaten the very like way that a Christian person having an abortion might be feeling, and you threaten their chances of getting into what they believe is the kingdom of heaven, and you say that having an abortion is going to prevent you from eternal life, that is a form of terrorism. Using your Christianity against somebody else's to make them feel as though what they're doing is going to destroy their eternal life. It's a form of terrorism that we cannot pass off as peaceful or passive. It is almost in some ways more effective.
Give your contact information.
It is.
And we'd be happy to set something up. Unless you're getting and dying, we appreciate you being here and wish all of you the best. And be safe. Godspeed.
This is ending. Thank you for watching. I'm going to absorb all this, and then I'm going to send a note that we're going to go over to TikTok and do live conversations because
for the babies with the priest present. So these are the
there's a lot to unpack here. A lot to unpack.